Hello everyone. By now you probably know me. This is Dr. Ed. I want to go over a really important subject today. It's how can a motor vehicle accident or how can a car accident change your brain? So it's estimated that there's 10.8 million motor vehicle accidents every year in the USA. So there's like 6 mil that are reported, and then they're saying there's upwards of 10.8 mil. Now, a lot of times when these car accidents happen, we think, oh, okay, the car's crumpled, I got some neck pain, but I'm fine, right? Sometimes people are just like, they ignore it after that. They're more worried about getting the car replaced or taken care of, but if there's no bleeding, no broken bones, we're okay. But research is actually starting to show quite the opposite. There's something called cerebellar tonsillar ectopia that occurs, okay? And that's a category of different situations that occur in the brain, and what might sound more familiar to you is Chiari malformation. So a Chiari malformation, if you look to the right here, okay, and this is a Chiari type 1, okay, and that's when the brain or the cerebellar tonsils, which are these right here, the cerebellum, okay, when they start to fall into the spinal canal to a distance of 3 to 5 millimeters, okay. Naturally, if you look on the picture on the left, those cerebellar tonsils are sitting way above, so they're not like starting to fall into that canal where the brainstem is. But if you look on the right here, what they'll see on imaging, MRIs usually, okay, is you will actually see that the cerebellum or the cerebellar tonsils are actually starting to fall or traction into the canal, okay? That's a really big deal. The reason is, let alone for the neurological tissue or the nerve tissue that's going to be compressed, right? Another reason is because the cerebral spinal fluid, that's the fluid that surrounds your spinal cord and your brain and all your central nervous system, and it pulses like all the way through. Every time you get a heartbeat, it pulses all the way through, okay? That central nervous system. And what it does is it removes toxins, and it also provides nutrients to that vital tissue. But when these injuries occur, okay, or they start to see Chiari type 1 malformation, or a Chiari type 0 is another thing they found. There was a Dr. Jerry Oakes, who found this years ago, and now they see it a lot more on upright MRIs, is that type 0 is when it just stays right here. Like it comes low, but it almost acts like a plug. But a type 1 is when it goes below 3 to 5 millimeters below the skull, the opening of the skull. And what they found, though, is that when these, this cerebellar tonsillar ectopia, or these Chiari malformations occur, it actually creates a plug effect, and then the fluid can't get out. That cerebral spinal fluid can't get out. So every time there's a heartbeat, they term it, and I'm not going to quiz you on these, but they term it water hammer response. And what that is that there's a spike up in pressure, because every time there's a heartbeat, the fluid's getting stuck in the cranial vault, and it's not able to get through. Long term, they're able to show on MRIs that there's actually global brain injury that occurs because of that constant high pressure gradient, where every time there's a heartbeat, it's putting pressure on your brain instead of flowing through. Now, I want you to think about it, like the symptoms associated with Chiari malformation, okay? There's a number of them, and they include headaches, right? Headaches, a lot of times it's usually in the back of the head, but they could be headaches all throughout your head. Neck pain, dizziness, balance issues, muscle weakness, numbness and tingling in the arms or legs, blurred vision or double vision, or even sensitivity to light, swallowing issues, hearing loss, tinnitus or tinnitus, just feeling sick, like just not feeling like yourself, feeling off, and insomnia, and clinical depression. So these are all symptoms that are related to this condition occurring. Now, here's the thing. There was a study that was done, and they looked at an MRI of over 1,200 patients, MRIs of 1,200 patients. And what they found is 30% of the people had no symptoms, and they actually had the worst form of this. It was actually 5 millimeters below or more, and they still had no symptoms. So there was at that point of the MRI, there was a dramatic physiological injury occurring, which the brain controls everything. I could talk another hour on that, about what happens when there's injuries like this to the brain. But just from a symptomatic perspective, symptoms weren't necessarily the best indicator to determine if this was happening, because 30% had no symptoms. Okay? So there was another study that I was reviewing, and they wanted to see, was there a relationship between car accidents, whiplash, and this occurring, this condition forming, okay? And what they know is that Chiari malformation, 0 and 1, high relationship of trauma occurring first before these develop, that they can actually see them on imaging. And what they did is they did a study of over 1,200 patients, and what they found is 1,200 people that had neck pain, just random neck pain, and they knew that they had whiplash also in the past. They took an MRI, and they found that they had a 4 times more likelihood of having this condition on the right, type 0 or type 1, okay, than people with neck pain but never had a whiplash car accident. Isn't that crazy? So if there was a car accident and there was whiplash involved, you were 4 times more to have this brain injury than if there wasn't. If there was no car accident, you just had neck pain. So what that shows is that there's a relationship. Research is showing, and now with MRI studies and all the rest, that there is a relationship between whiplash, even slow car accidents that create whiplash, like only 5 to 10 miles an hour, and then brain injuries occurring and manifesting as the months and the years go on. Okay? So it's like, that's why it's so important. We get our cars checked. We have to get our children and ourselves checked. Just get assessed. Okay? Now, here's the thing. You say, okay, well, this happens, Dr. Ed. Are we stuck? Like, what's that mean? Well, the amazing thing is that people have been coming to upper cervical chiropractors for decades for these exact conditions and have been getting their lives transformed. Now they're able to show on MRI why that's the case. What they find is that when these vertebrae twist out of place in the upper neck, puts traction on all this delicate central nervous system tissue, and they think that has to do with a high relationship or correlation between this tissue, like the cerebellar tonsils, being tractioned into the canal. And what they're able to show now, there's 2 docs that are looking at this. There's more than 2 docs, but there's 2 docs that did a study I reviewed recently. It's Dr. Scott Rosa and Dr. Baird. And what they did is they actually did before and after MRIs of people with these conditions, and they wanted to see what happened, what changed on the MRIs. Number 1, they found that the fluid flow improved within minutes before to after, where that water hammer response, where the fluid was like getting stuck in and beating on the brain tissue, would decrease instantaneously, almost to normal levels, when the pressure was off, because there was a light adjustment that would untorque those vertebrae and let this start to get back in a better position. And then also, they were, with the follow-up MRIs, okay, they were able to show that there would actually be healing that would occur with this brain tissue, that it would actually start to sit where it should and stop tractioning into the spinal canal when adjusted specifically and scientifically with amazing chiropractic care. How cool is that? So, guys, look into this, right? If you got into a car accident ever, which unfortunately so many of us have, for you or your loved ones, like, get your nervous system checked. It can and probably, very probably will, transform your future. You know, it's amazing stuff. So if you got any questions, you could reach out to our office. We'd love to help any way we can. But if you need a doc in your area too, look up Upper Cervical Chiropractors. There's so many of them. Okay, get somebody who's trained in the upper cervical technique, and it could literally, upper cervical techniques, there's a number of them, but it could transform your future. All right, thank you.